Welcome back to another episode of Broke Up, Not Broken. I'm your host, Jamie Lima, and founder of Allegiant Divorce Solutions, where we help people prepare for, navigate, and recover financially from divorce. This podcast is your one-stop shop for mastering your life and your finances throughout the entire divorce process. Today, we're joined by Danielle Ingenito, a former accountant turned certified intuitive Reiki master, medium, and best-selling author with a social following of over 500,000 people. It's crazy. Good for you. And a powerful message of self-empowerment, Danielle helps people reclaim their energy and break free from limiting patterns, especially when navigating life transitions like divorce. Today, we're going to explore how the energetic and emotional blocks tied to money and self-worth can be released to create financial freedom and a stronger you in your future post-divorce. So grab a cup of coffee or your beverage of choice. And once again, let's get you personally and financially empowered. Danielle, so great to have you here with us today.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here in our conversation today.
Yeah, well, leading up to it, we talked a little bit about and commiserated some on our own painful experiences through the process of divorce. So if you're open to it, I'd love to hear about what that was like for you and maybe how you overcame it.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, that's kind of how this whole journey started. So that's a good start. So back in 2017, everything kind of went downhill. We had been trying to save our marriage and all of that stuff. But one night things just took a wrong turn and it was over from that. And then he was seeing someone pretty much right after that. So yeah, I was devastated. I wanted the marriage to work. We had 2 small kids. They were 3 and 6 at the time. And I had my own business at the time as well, doing QuickBooks consulting. I was a CPA, still am. And yeah, so I was devastated. I would be showing up to school crying my eyes out. Like I could not stop crying. That's all I can remember. I just could not stop crying. Everything was like falling on me. We had to sell our house. We had to rehome our dog. Like the kids were devastated. It was a nightmare. And that's kind of how I turned into this because therapy wasn't helping me. And somebody suggested an energy healer. And I was like, what the heck is that? I was like very skeptical. But I was like, you know what? At this point, I have to do anything I can to try to be there for my kids. Because if I'm good, the kids would be good. That's kind of like the mindset I had. So I went to an energy healer and that's kind of where all this took off. But yeah, divorce is hard.
Divorce is hard. We both got divorced in the same year. So we have that to share. We share that as well. But I'm super interested in this because even though this is somewhat of a financial show, we'll get into some of the financial stuff later. But I'm big into the self-help stuff and more so like more of like the Eastern medicine. I've never done Reiki. I have to be honest, never done Reiki, but I'm a big fan of chiropractic and acupuncture and like all the stuff, right? Like I go to a chiropractor myself. He's an amazing person. He's the one that actually got me through my own bout with adrenal fatigue, which I asked you about earlier when we were preparing for this call. And not too many people know what that is. And that's if you've ever suffered from adrenal fatigue. I went from running 50 to 70 miles a week to not being able to walk to the mailbox during my divorce. So like it was bananas. So I got you. Any thoughts on that?
I went on supplements for that because, especially as a mother and then as a single mother going through the divorce and taking care of the kids. I mean, I just was looking at pictures and I was like, wow, I was so skinny, like not good skinny. And I was like, wow, that was really hard. So yeah, adrenal fatigue I think that's one of the best things that we can focus on for ourselves. Obviously, I'm not a doctor, but I think the adrenal fatigue, I took supplements for that in order to help. And I had like a holistic doctor who I call him the voodoo doctor because like, I don't know what he does, but he just fixes you. But it's in Long Island. I'm in New York. It's about 2 hours away. But yeah, I think adrenal fatigue is a real thing. And I think that a lot of people, if you are tired, if you're stressed out, if you're burnt out, like that is majorly something to focus on.
Absolutely. And I'm not a doctor either. I don't even pretend to play one on TV, but I mean, I've since remarried to an amazing woman, and this was like, I said I wanted a divorce in 2017. Divorce was finalized in 2018, and then the shitstorm kept going, right? Like because like she wasn't ready, she just wanted to make my life as painful as possible, effectively, and that just kept going, right? So my now wife had to experience some of that with me. And I think it was almost like this like you have all this buildup and emotions, and you're trying to like keep it all together and so on and so forth. And at one point, your body's like, listen, dude, or dudette, like I can't take this anymore. And you're constantly stuck in that fight or flight.
Absolutely.
And I that was exactly what it was. Like there would be, things would happen, right? Like something minor would happen. And for the most of us, we would have this experience like, wow, that sucks, or I'm pissed off, or like, like I'm frustrated in the moment, and you move past it, right? You calm yourself down, you move past it. There was a day, like something happened around the house one day, and I specifically remember this, that we're talking about this. And I came back to the house, and I sat down on the front porch, and I could feel my heart racing, and I couldn't get it to stop. And it wasn't really a panic attack. It was just like this adrenaline that I couldn't stop in my body. I knew at that point, I was like, wow, something is off. So we went to the doctor, and it took probably 6 months for me to feel like, back to normal again, but a ton of supplements and trying to get enough rest and just trying to meditation and trying to figure out ways to be able to control that, not staying in that fight or flight all the time. And that was, I guess that was the experience, right? It was like I had something happen. I don't remember what it was. My adrenaline spiked, and I couldn't get it to stop. Wow. It was weird.
Yeah. I've had panic attacks. That sounds like a panic attack to me, like what was happening. Anxiety rushes up. I feel like, I'm an energy healer. So like to me, that's all energy coming up, right? How we don't know how to control it and stuff. But yeah, I mean, that happens. A lot of people get that.
So it hasn't happened since, and I feel much better. I was 5-mile run this morning and feel great, and life is definitely different today than it was just 2 or 3 years ago. But like for those of us that are like you're going through a divorce and you have this experience, like what are some of the telltale signs that you need to start like maybe thinking about reaching out to somebody like you?
Oh, definitely. Like if you are crying all the time, for sure. If you're ruminating thoughts all the time, if things are going through your head, if you're really kind of getting down on yourself, or like realizing and realizing that maybe that you're not enough, or that they left you, and just in that down negative energy, you definitely want to reach out to a healer, because we can change that negative energy into positive energy. And the other thing, especially about divorces, and I know a lot of women and probably men, we deal with a lot of narcissistic people. And I think it's very, very important to make sure that you're clearing and protecting your energy. That's why I wrote my book, It's Not You, It's Your Energy, because you need to learn how to clear and protect, especially if you're going through this divorce. You can't handle your own stuff when you have other people's stuff on you too. So I feel like you need to release everybody else's energy to understand what you're actually feeling. Because I went through all of that not knowing about that. And he was pissed off at me and I'm pissed off at him. But like some days I'm having a good day, and then all of a sudden I'm like so angry, and it's because like he's projecting energy towards me because he's mad at me. And so like all that back and forth energy just needs to be like cleared and protected, so that you're only dealing with your own energy. Because during a divorce, you have so much healing to do within yourself, because there's a reason why the divorce is happening. So that's either like you picked the wrong person, or they left you, or you left them, whatever it is. Like you've got enough healing on your own to do. You don't need anybody else's baggage coming into that. So if you feel all those kind of things and you don't know what to do and you feel like you're helpless, you definitely want to reach out to someone like me.
100%. And that one of the, you might have answered one of my questions here, but one of the questions I have for you is like, how do you maintain those boundaries, right? Like it's one of the biggest challenges I found is like managing, my expectations, their expectations, some of the financial guilt that you have, because now, things aren't as easy financially for anybody along the way. So like, what advice do you have for someone who feels bad while they're going through this of putting up those boundaries?
Well, the thing I always say that people don't teach about boundaries is when I teach boundaries, we have to work on you first before you even set boundaries. Because a lot of people will set them, but the people in their lives that they're there for will overstep them. And we won't say anything about it. So it's like, it's not even worth it to set boundaries unless you know that you're worthy of setting those boundaries. So I think that even boundaries itself starts with, and you mentioned it too, like you feel bad, right? So it's like you have to work on yourself first to get yourself strong enough and confident enough to be able to set the boundaries with the people in your life, especially like who you're getting divorced from.
Yeah. I learned so much about setting boundaries, during my divorce, as I'm sure a lot of people do. I try to coach people, even though I'm not a divorce coach by any stretch. But as we're working on the financial aspects of things with people going through a divorce, so many of them I just see the communications that they have with their soon to be ex or their now ex, and it's like, war and peace emails and, like all the text messages back and forth and everything else, because we get some purview into some of that stuff. It's like, this is not how you should be handling it.
Yeah. And I think again, it's all up to us and how we handle that. And those boundaries are really, really important in order to, what a lot of people do is like when they get divorced, they feel bad, like you had already mentioned, and they give too much away to the other person, especially, I'm just going to say, especially like women, they just want to move on. They don't even care. So like they lose a lot of what they could have because they don't fight for it. Because again, they don't have that confidence inside of themselves. They kind of want to just be done with it and let go. But I think that's one of the biggest mistakes that we make because, we have to fight for what we deserve. And if our husbands are making the most money, it's like we deserve a part of that. Like we don't deserve to just be like divorced and taking care of the kids all the time and doing our stuff and struggling all the time. It's like you have to know that you're worthy of setting boundaries and also worthy of money.
100%. Great transition, because I want to ask a little bit about some of your money tips, since you are a CPA, and I'm sure you deal with, I was at a conference last week, and one of the statistics that came out was that 76% of divorces are people getting divorced mainly for money problems.
Wow.
76% of divorces result in some kind of money problem. There may be infidelity, there may be the narcissistic component of it, there may be, whatever other, situation that comes up, but in some form or fashion, there are underlying money issues in 76% of divorces.
Wow.
So how do you blend, while you're doing the work that you're doing, how do you blend like your financial background, the experience you have there with the intuitive work to help people make better, not only money decisions, but just make better decisions overall?
Yeah, there's a couple of different ways that I do that. One of them is like helping people shift their identity, and that helps you. Like I did this a couple of years ago with myself, and I'm like, okay, I'm a financially responsible person, right? Because a lot of people get themselves like, first of all, a lot of people, we have money blocks, right? And that money block is going to keep us away from the financial freedom that we want. But I have the best thing that I can do is step into a different identity. So when I started to say to myself, like, I'm a financially responsible person, I start to make decisions like I am a financially responsible person. That is the one thing that really has changed my money. And then the other part of that, of course, is about manifesting it. So visualizing it. But people don't understand with manifestation, like it's out there. I always say it's like 1.0 manifestation. We want to do 2.0, which is getting our energy on the same page as what we want to manifest. Because so many people already have money issues. That's probably why marriages don't work in 76% of them, because everybody looks at money differently. And a lot of people have trauma around money that, and it's a safety thing. We talk about this in the root chakra with our chakras here. This is our energy field, and this is like where our chakras are. The root chakra is at the very base of your spine. This is where you feel safe. And if you grew up not having money or feeling poor, or your family teaching you like you can't spend money, you have a scarcity mindset. So there's so much that already goes into a marriage. Now, when you get divorced, it's like you're breaking that all apart. And, if you had that money trouble in the marriage, you're going to have it outside of the marriage too, when you're getting the divorce. So it's always a fight, but that's kind of how I bring it in. I mean, I'm a CPA, so I did QuickBooks. So like if you take my Manifest course, it's like, actually my money blocks course, I actually show QuickBooks and tell them, okay, write a check every day for $1,000, because we need to, it's not about tricking your mind. It's about changing it. So if you see $1,000 coming into your bank account, fake bank account for right now, it's like you start to feel that energy of money coming through, and you start to let go of the fear of money and get excited for receiving the money. So there's a lot of different ways that I help people financially, but it always comes down to the energy of who they are and their limited beliefs.
One of money blocks was one of the things that I was going to ask you about too. So are there any like common patterns or financial pitfalls or beliefs that people have that people get stuck in all the time that you see? I mean,
Yeah,
you already
absolutely.
mentioned some of them, but like there's got to be more.
Yeah, I wrote them coming down today. So I just wanted to kind of see which ones that your audience is going to resonate with here. So one of them is that I can't make it on my own, especially after divorce. You know, people think that, oh, they're done. I thought that. I'll tell you a quick story real quick. When I got divorced, it was February 2007, well, separated, February 2017. We were waiting for, I don't even know, years for my ex-husband to finally get the high up paycheck. And I was like, after that, we were set. We were like ready to go. I got one paycheck of that. And then we separated. And I was waiting, like busting my butt in my business, doing everything. I was waiting so long for that. So in that moment, I was like, it felt like I was starting all over again, you know? So that was a very hard hit to take for myself, because it was a lot that we were going to get. And I wasn't going to have to work as much, and I was able to take care of the kids, and that didn't happen. I had to actually do the opposite. So yeah, I can't make it on my own. I'm starting over with nothing is another one. I don't deserve alimony or child support. It is amazing to me how many women give up alimony or child support because they don't want to deal with it. They're like, oh, masculine women a lot. They're like, oh, I'll just do it on my own, you know, instead of fighting for that.
My mother, that was my mother.
Ah. Mm-hmm.
And I tell the story all the time, and not only in this podcast and in others. It's, you know, like I was 7 or 8 years old. I watched my parents go through a divorce. It was a DIY divorce themselves. You know, I think they drove down to the courthouse themselves. This was in the, you know, early 80s. So, you know, wow. Times were a little bit different. They probably didn't even wear seatbelts on the way to the courthouse, because that's how things were in the early 80s. But anyway, I mean, you know, they did it themselves, and she was like, I don't want anything. And circling back to one of your earlier comments about like that scarcity mindset, that created a scarcity mindset in my life, and basically was the impetus for doing the work that I do as a financial planner, because I watched them both scrimp and get by. You know, my dad was a little bit better off because he had a job at the time, and he actually had to work 2 jobs to help all of us out. But my mom worked multiple jobs and just odd jobs to keep a roof over our heads. But like, there were times when, you know, like I had friends bringing over groceries to put in the pantry because we didn't have anything. And if you think if you think your 7 or 8 year old doesn't see that and it doesn't impact them, in my particular case, for their entire life, you're sadly mistaken. Yeah. It's just, it was like a lot.
Yeah. And that right there, that story right there will lead you believing that you have to struggle for money, right? So money, and you have to realize if you love money or if you hate money. And if you grow up with issues like that, I grew up with my stepfather having money, but always holding it over our heads. So like, I hated money, and then any money would cause disagreements between them. So they would always be fighting. So I hated money. I thought like, oh, it's just like, get rid of money. It's the worst thing ever. It just causes fights. But you have to realize that money is a good thing. And we have to let go of what we feel about money, and we have to believe that it's good and use it for good. But that's what happens is in childhood, a lot of it comes from a childhood as to how you feel about money. And I'm telling you, if you feel uncomfortable with money or if you hate money, you're never going to receive money. You're never going to have a lot of money. And that's one of the biggest truths that I had to learn myself.
Absolutely. There's something to be said about that. I'm sorry to interrupt your flow there, but I wanted to comment on that, because everything you're saying, like, you know, definitely resonates with me.
Yeah. All right, let me keep going. Let's see what else resonates.
Go for it.
So I'm not good with money. I said that to myself a million times. I'm not good with money, because as soon as I got it, I probably spent it before I even had it, you know? So we believe in ourselves that we're not good with it. But a lot of that comes from not deserving it, feeling like you don't deserve it, feeling like you're not good enough for it. And that's really subconscious stuff. You don't even realize that that's happening. Yeah. And like what I just said to you, I'm always going to struggle. So money is about struggle. And then this is a common one that I've seen in my clients lately, is that everything's going to fall apart. So like, they'll have money in the bank, but they're waiting for the ball to drop. Like, something's going to happen and the ball's going to drop and their money's going to be gone. So that is one of the things. And money always disappears. So
how do you handle that last one? Because I know a lot of people that feel that way.
Yeah. So that's a scarcity mindset. So we are still sitting in the lack, right? So we're always thinking that something is going to go wrong. So we have to start to change our mindset and energy. So like, if this was somebody's belief, I would definitely get to the root of where that comes from. So it's in my breakthrough session. We do a root of where it comes from, because that's the energy that we need to release, because our energy gets stuck in our energy field. This is beautiful energy, right? This is not all our energy though. It's all gray and dark and so when we do a breakthrough session, we get to the root of why you feel like money always disappears, or like everything's going to kind of just go that way. You've either experienced it before or didn't feel safe. That's a safety issue, right? Because you're thinking everything's going to fall apart. And then what? Two things I love to do is create a plan. So, if I say, okay, my whole business shuts down and I'm not making any money, I'm like, okay, I'm taking the 2 kids and I'm moving to my mom's house. Like that's going to be the plan, So having kind of like a backup plan, even if it's not what you like, it's still having some kind of plan. I feel like sometimes allows our brain to calm down with that little thought, okay, of that everything's going to fall out. But then also getting to the root, and it's actually the root chakra there, is getting to release the energy of not feeling safe.
It's pretty powerful stuff. Pretty powerful. Where were you 4 years ago?
4 years ago. Let me
I could have used you 4 years ago. Where were you? I'm only kidding. I probably could have used you and my doctor at the same time, but you would have maybe I would have healed quicker. But
oh, definitely. Yeah.
That's awesome. Well, I appreciate you sharing all that. What I like to call this segment of our chat is the kind of the carte blanche segment here. So are there we covered a lot. We covered some of the more self-help stuff. We covered some of the financial pieces of this. Are there any questions I didn't ask that maybe I should have, or any last message you want to share with our listeners that we didn't cover?
Yeah, I think one of the last ones here was to not give in to your ex's expectations, because I feel like a lot of going through a divorce, again, like we said, it's kind of like letting them have everything that they want. But I remember, I think it was more than 4 years ago. I think it was like 2020. And my ex-husband was like badgering me, that to the point I had like this most severe panic attack I ever had. And it was because I was trying to do what I wanted for me and the kids, but like he didn't agree with it. And I wasn't backing down. I would always back down. I would always say, okay, whatever. This comes from codependency, which is, seeking validation outside of yourself. And those are like people pleasers, overgivers, overachievers is also a codependent persona. And I feel like we have to stand our ground. We have to set those boundaries, because if you give in to the expectations of your exes, you're abandoning yourself. So if you abandon yourself, right, you're never really going to get to where you want to be, because you're always trying to please somebody else, or not even please, but appease. Okay. Because if you do that all the time, again, you're abandoning yourself and you're not going to get to that financial success that you want. So go after what you want. Like I'm helping one of my clients right now. I'm going to start researching Florida, because I'm like, okay, she deserves child support and she's not getting it. So what can we do to fight for it? So it's like fight for yourself in your divorce, because you can't just let your ex take everything. You deserve a lot of it. So make sure that you set yourself up for financial success, because if you give everything away, you're starting from scratch. And starting from scratch is hard. I've done that a couple of times now, right? So allow yourself to have that confidence in yourself and know that you deserve it and fight for it.
100%. And if she needs help, we work in Florida. We work in all 50 states. We work in all 50 states.
Awesome.
The beauty of the work that we do is that, as long as the maths in your state. So if 2 + 2 still equals 4 in Florida or Texas or Tennessee, we can still work with you. We don't have to be licensed in any states or any of that stuff. We have overarching jurisdiction over all the states. So unlike attorneys who can only work in kind of their little pocket of the world, we can work in all 50. So that's been super helpful, because we have cases all over the country, which is cool.
Yeah. And I really love what you do, because I think it's so important to set people up for success. So when I got divorced, I just had a lawyer. And to be honest, I wrote my whole contract myself. So, so a lot of people don't really help you with it. They just kind of give you the standard thing or whatever. But I fought for myself in that contract. I was like, nope, we're going to do this and we're going to do this. And I fought for it. So yeah. I did end up a little bit ahead of there, but I love what you do, because a lot of people, they're not looking for the forward part of the finances when you get divorced.
And that's the thing. And, and I appreciate that. Thank you for the commercial. The one thing that I tell people all the time is when your attorney is going to, pat you on the back, or gives you a hug and says, congratulations, you're divorced. It was great working with you. In many ways, that's where our job is only about halfway done, right? Because we help people through the next phase into their next phase of their life. We'll help them put their future financial plan together and talk about investment strategy and what they want to do with their investments and any money that they get from their settlements and so on. We don't just, walk away when the dust settles on it or the ink has dried, so to speak, on the divorce decree. In many ways, our job has only just begun. So, thank you for the commercial. I appreciate that.
I got a question.
And thank you for your time today. It's been super amazing to have you with us and to talk through this stuff. I'm a big fan, like I said, of all the, the Eastern medicine, maybe your alternative options that people have versus going to the doctor to just get some more pills from because that tends to be how things work here in Western society. But I really do appreciate you sharing all of your insights and the powerful ways that you can heal yourself and in your relationships with money, and especially as we're going through divorce and even after the dust is settled on that divorce. So for our listeners who want to explore more of Danielle's work, check out our TikTok, YouTube, Instagram. We're going to put all the links in the show notes for you, so don't worry about jotting them down now. And visit her for energy healing and empowerment resources on our website. And if you're ready to get your financial life in order during or after a divorce, we're here to help you at Allegiant Divorce Solutions. Visit AllegiantDS.com to get started. And don't forget to subscribe to Broke Up, Not Broken for more interviews like this that empower your emotional and financial recovery on into the future. Until next time.